Hello, and welcome to the RTCC podcast, where we shine light on relevant college and career information that students and parents need to know. My name is Robert Ortiz, and I will be your host today. The team at Uplift Education are excited to launch this new podcast. All of you listening have experienced significant changes to your lives, which is why we're excited to launch this podcast to where we can inform you on the information you need to know. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today is our first episode of the RTCC podcast. We will be pushing out new episodes each Friday, so whatever platform you're listening on, please remember to tune back every Friday for a new episode. I'm excited to welcome our first guest today, Aleta Estrada.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today. As Robert said, my name is Aleta Estrada. I work with the Road to College and Career team as the Director of College Readiness. So in my role, I support our academic counselors in making sure our scholars are meeting graduation requirements.
So excited to have you on the show today, Aleta. Thanks for making the time to be here. As we all know, we're in these unprecedented times, and so just wanted to check in on you and see how you and your loved ones are doing.
Yeah, we're doing well. We're adjusting. I know this has been a big transition for everyone. My husband and I both work in education. He has to be online. He teaches sixth grade, so he's online with his kids during the day and participating in different meetings. And I'm online in different meetings and trying to help our network get some things in place for our scholars. So it's been great to work that way. I have a 4-year-old at home, so it's been really nice to be able to spend some time with her. We're the same as everyone else. We're just adjusting to new schedules and new lifestyle right now.
I know those that are listening can definitely resonate to those adjustments at home. And so, yeah, you're right. We're all learning those adjustments as we go. For our listeners, we understand that a lot of updates have been made in the last couple of weeks. And we just want to say thank you for your patience and understanding as we navigate these changes together. We want to share with you all that every decision being made is with the spirit of keeping families safe, healthy, and educational during these times.
Definitely. And I think that's the biggest thing. All I can do is just encourage all of our families and our scholars just to stay engaged, work with Uplift. We know the past week we have gone through a few challenges and just had to overcome some obstacles. And we're hoping that, in the next few days and in the weeks to come, everyone will start to adjust and things will fall into place and be a little easier for all of our families.
Yeah, thanks, Aleta. We're all working together on this. There has been collaboration amongst area school districts. And, this is something that at the state level is being figured out. And so before we shine light on today's show, on the information that we're going to share, Aleta, you mentioned several times earlier that it's very important for families and scholars to stay engaged. And a lot of that has to do with because information is going to be changing. And it's important to have that outreach and be engaged with the campus staff. So, Aleta, do you have tips or suggestions of practical ways that our parents and scholars can stay up to date on what's happening? How can they stay engaged?
Absolutely. So, I think, as I've already mentioned, make sure that you're checking Facebook, checking your Uplift, your campus pages, as well as the Uplift page, and just looking for updates. They would notify you if there's been any big changes or if communication is going out. That's huge. I think also now that we've set up YouTube channels, Uplift YouTube channels, so making sure that you're connecting with those, checking in on that you have access to those channels, and just seeing what resources are being shared. Some social counseling videos on there to help scholars just really understand what's happening and try to find some creative ways to deal with the stress of this time as well. And so that's going to be a great resource for our students. But our teachers are really coming together across the network to make sure that we're sharing kind of our best and brightest resources.
Aleta, knowing Uplift schools are closed indefinitely, what's the long-term plan for online learning?
Campuses are really going to pivot over the next few weeks to more individualized resources. So I know high schools are setting up schedules so that you can actually participate in for the most part, your core classes and core instruction with your teachers. Some of the teachers will be doing live teaching events, but then as well, there will be, they will always post their lessons and post videos to share. So if you're not able to log in at 10 a.m., that's okay. Those resources are going to be available at 11 p.m. or at whatever time is going to be convenient for you to be able to get online and go through that. And then teachers are also going to be scheduling office hours. So just lots of ways that you can stay connected. For our juniors and for all of our students, right, we've done a big push towards preparing for the ACT this year. And so you'll also have access to method test prep through your Zello accounts to continue with ACT prep as well. So just making sure you're utilizing those resources and staying connected. I think the more our scholars can participate, just the more it's going to help them this year stay on track academically, but also potentially just with grades and credits and all of those things. This is a great time for them to be connecting.
Great. Yeah, all of that is super helpful information. I know there's a lot of people working around the clock to ensure that there are great and plentiful resources available for staff, families, scholars. We are offering these opportunities for learning that's more sustainable, that can really continue the learning that we left with before spring break.
Definitely.
So due to the coronavirus outbreak, there have been significant decisions made at the state, national, and global level that directly impact scholars. So, Aleta, can you first share how the changes at the state level directly impact scholars, especially knowing that the STAAR exam has been canceled for this year?
One of the biggest updates that will have the biggest impact on our scholars and our staff and our curriculum have been the updates to STAAR and EOC exams. So typically, at the end of the year, we have STAAR exams for our primary and middle school scholars, and then for high school students, they have end of course exams, and they take those exams for Algebra 1, English 1, English 2, Biology, and U.S. History. So depending on what grade level they take those courses, that's when the exams happen. And those 5 exams, you actually need their graduation requirements. So you have to show mastery on those exams and score high enough to demonstrate mastery to graduate.
So what about scholars who haven't passed those exams?
For scholars that haven't passed, still not meeting those requirements, or not exempt and have not passed all of their EOCs when they get to senior year, they actually have to be reviewed through an individual graduation committee to be approved for graduation and do some additional steps. So it's going to be very different this year. They have made the decision to not offer the STAAR and EOC exams. So really, STAAR exams take place in multiple years, but the high stakes years are in 5th grade and in 8th grade. So taking the STAAR exams in 5th grade and 8th grade, those scores are determined in the decision to be promoted to 6th grade and to 9th grade, respectively. And then, of course, like I said, for your EOC, for your end of course exams, those are included, passing those tests are included in decisions around graduation. So not having those exams this year, what has been communicated is that for any scholar, right, for our 5th and 8th grade scholars, and for any other scholar taking STAAR, so whether you were taking it in 7th grade or, in 6th grade or any other grade level, that those scores, of course, will not be used in decisions for promotion. So that will not be a factor in whether our scholars are promoted from 5th to 6th grade and whether they're promoted from 8th to 9th grade performance on those tests, since they won't be taking them. And then for high school, any scholar that is taking a course this year that aligned to an EOC course. So if you're taking Algebra 1, if you're taking English 1, English 2, Biology, or U.S. History, you will be exempt. So you will never have to take the EOC for those specific classes, because you're supposed to take the test the year that you take the class. So as long as you pass the class this year, you will not be required to take the EOC on your final transcript. It will just say exempt. For students that have not passed or still have outstanding EOCs from years past. So maybe you took English 1 last year and did not receive a passing score, came to summer school, did some remediation and still haven't been able to receive a passing score. You're still going to need to take the English 1 retake in December, and then ongoing until you pass that exam. For students that do not pass their courses. So if you're taking English 1 this year and you fail English 1 and have to take it again next year, there is potential that you'll still have to take the exam again. So that's why it's so important to make sure you're working with your academic counselor and make sure that you're on track to pass all of those courses this year so that you don't have to worry about that in the future. Of course, it's very significant for our seniors. And so there are a couple of different things that this, will affect for our senior class, our graduating seniors. Any scholar that has not, like I said, if they're not already exempt from one of their EOC exams and or have not already passed. So if we have a senior, let's say, that never passed their English 2 exam, they will be reviewed by the IGC process, the individual graduation committee process. We will be sharing more details with all of our students. I know some scholars have already gotten information about that. IGC has always been a process it's been in place for the past few years, but now the restrictions and the guidelines and expectations through IGC are a little bit different. So for students that still have outstanding EOC exams, they will go through the IGC process, and there'll be a couple of extra things that they're going to have to do, because ideally through the IGC, what we're trying to determine is if the scholar is prepared in this content area, or essentially have they mastered all of the concepts that they would have needed to learn while they were in high school, and are they prepared for the next step? So in terms of college readiness and career readiness.
Yeah, I know the EOC and STAAR exams can create a lot of anxiety for students, especially if they were really relying on that exam this year to pass or be promoted. As you mentioned, like our 5th and 8th graders, seniors who still may have needed taken it. And so there's a lot of what ifs around this. And families and scholars, the best thing they can do right now is just remain in communication with their counselors about this so that they know exactly how this impacts scholars individually. Again, going back to what we've been saying, we are handling this with compassion and what's in the best interest of scholars. And so, yes, we know that this can be nerve-wracking. It can feel uncertain. It can feel scary. Just also know that we want to ensure that we're going to do the best that we can to provide a pathway to promotion or graduation, and be able to communicate what those details are for those students who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're not, again, we're not trying to make things more difficult, especially for our seniors. We know this is already just going to be a very hard semester, having to miss out on some of those senior year experiences. And especially with all of the uncertainty and unknown right now, my heart goes out to all of our senior class, and all of the Uplift class of 2020. I know this is a really difficult time, so we don't want to make anything harder for you. We're definitely trying to determine what is the best way to meet, the needs, stay in compliance with the state, and follow all of their guidelines, and work to support all of our seniors during this time so that we can make sure that you are still on track to graduate.
Can you provide a quick recap on how seniors can be ready for graduation?
At Uplift, there are really 3 things, kind of 4 things that we look at in terms of graduation and being ready for graduation. So, of course, one is, staying on track with all of your credits. So if you have not, if you still have courses outstanding, so you failed U.S. history last year, or you failed history of the Americas last year, and you did not come to summer school to make up that credit, and you are either participating in a Plato online credit recovery course right now, or you did not ever sign up for a Plato course, make sure you reach out to your Road to College and Career team, reach out to your academic counselor as soon as possible, so that you can make arrangements to get caught up with any outstanding credits, like I said, from years past. If you know that you are already on track to fail a course needed to graduate this year, the same. Reach out to your academic counselor and talk about, what your options are at this point. And then if you're a senior that is just really floating along and has been like, oh man, you've been really riding that line of like having a 70, 72 in your classes every year throughout the year. Make sure, again, that you are staying engaged, working with your teachers, participating in online coursework, and just connecting. Again, we don't want any of this to jeopardize your ability to graduate. So the more communication, I can't say this enough, I'll say this probably 50 more times on this during this session, but the more communication, the better. If you don't know where you stand, definitely reach out to your academic counselor this week, next week, and go over your credits, talk about your transcript, talk about GPA, graduation requirements, and just make sure that you have everything you need. At Uplift, we have state graduation requirements, and then Uplift usually requires a few extra things. And again, we're working to be flexible and make sure that we have your best interest in mind at this time. So check in with your academic counselor, go over all of your requirements, and just make sure that you're in good standing and figure out what do you need to do this spring so that you stay there. We also usually look at community service hours. So we're definitely going to be flexible with this. We know that it's challenging, or it's going to be really hard to be able to accomplish those things and finish your hours. Reach out to your counselors. Again, more communication will be shared soon as to how all of that is going to be handled. If you are a DP candidate, though, needing to complete pass for DP, that is completely different. So just know you're still being held accountable for that. I'll talk about some details for DP in a second. And then, of course, the last part of graduation usually falls into working with college and careers. So college applications, financial aid, making college decisions, and then, of course, depending on what your decisions are for next step, working with our career team, finalize some plans and just get your plans in place. So reach out to your college counselors, seniors, and talk to them and just make sure that you are set.
For our seniors sitting at home, there's definitely things that they can be doing right now. This is a great opportunity to practice self-advocacy, to be reaching out to your college counselors, be reaching out to those who can help you along this process, especially during this time. There's definitely things that you need to be aware of and continue pressing forward on. Aleta, can you give insight on the changes that have been made to the SAT and ACT this year?
Yeah, so for SAT and ACT, most of the spring exams, or all of the spring exams, have been postponed or rescheduled or canceled. So when thinking about the ACT, they did have a Saturday test in April. There was supposed to be a national test scheduled for Saturday, April 4th, and that if you were registered for that exam, your registration has been moved to June 13th. So just be checking for that. You should have received notification from ACT. If you need to cancel, if that's something that won't work for you, you can work with them on that. And then as well, as we know, as these dates get extended, if June 13th is not, if they're not going to be able to offer the test on that date, you'll get more information then. For SAT, they did have March and May exams scheduled Saturday national test dates, and those have been canceled. So you're eligible for a refund. You should have received information about that. So again, be checking your email for those things. And as of now, you can still register for the exam that's happening on June 6th, Saturday, June 6th. Now at Uplift, we also offered school day testing for ACT. So for all of our juniors, they were supposed to take the ACT this spring on campus. That's been postponed until further notice. We are not exactly sure, again, because we don't know when we're going to be back in session, or if we're going to be back in session, we don't know when we're going to be able to offer that exam. So we are in the process of applying to become authorized to offer the Saturday, the national ACT exam, on Uplift campuses on June 13th. We also are making sure everyone has access to Method Test Prep, ACT Prep through Method Test Prep. That's through your Zello account. So if you log into Zello, then you should be able to click on the link for Method Test Prep. And that is going to be a great resource for you to continue preparing and practicing for that ACT exam.
For sure. There have definitely been big adjustments to the SAT and ACT, and we'll keep you informed as we hear more. So for students who were anticipating on taking DP exams this year, have there been updates to how that's going to happen?
Yes, definitely. So again, the IBO, the IB organization, has been sharing updates ongoing. At the current time, the actual DP exams that were scheduled for May will not happen. They've been canceled. Those specific May exams. Keep in mind, right, that IBO is a worldwide organization. So they are supporting students in classrooms and schools all over the world. And as the pandemic is really affecting communities worldwide, they've determined that it's just not possible for them to be able to offer assessments consistently to all of the schools that they're working with. And so they are working on a plan. You will still get an IB score. You'll still get a DP score for all of your courses that you were signed up to take the assessment. So if you're a full DP candidate, or if you were a course candidate, meaning you were only going to take certain assessments, like maybe only in the English and the humanities courses, or maybe only in science and math, you'll still receive scores for those courses. They are just working on a plan to use classwork, the internal assessments you've already completed, looking at different parts of the class that you've already done or could potentially do online and do remotely over the next few weeks to calculate those scores. So just know that you're still going to have the end result. It's just going to look a little bit differently. Of course, all of that applies to our current seniors. If you are a current junior, just make sure that you're participating in your online coursework with your DP teachers as much as possible. Anything that you can do to just, again, continue and have consistency with your learning. Our goal is to make sure that you have what you need to be able to move on to 12th grade next year. And so, just any way that you can stay engaged in those online learning opportunities, it's just going to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful. So again, check in with your DP coordinators, check in with your Dean of College Prep.
Absolutely. And I know this sounds like we keep telling you to reach out to this person, reach out to that person, but it really is the best thing you can do right now. Aleta, and lastly, can you share with us the updates that have been made to the TSI exam?
Absolutely. So we know this year we were really trying. Last year, some of our campuses started with really working with some of our seniors on TSI exams. So TSI is the Texas Success Initiative, and that is basically like a placement exam that you need for college, especially if you're planning to attend a college in the state of Texas, whether it's a public or private university. A lot of them will use TSI scores and AccuPlacer scores to determine whether you are ready for freshman level math and English coursework. Scholars that are not, so either you have to get a score high enough on your ACT to be, or SAT or PSAT, there's a number of tests you can take that if you score high enough, then you are exempt from having to take the TSI, but otherwise you would need to take the TSI. There's this year a reading, writing, and math component of that exam. And so we're currently just working with College Board, with TEA and the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board, and various colleges. We've been reaching out to all kinds of colleges here in Texas just to figure out how they're going to look at TSI scores, if they're going to be using them. And then again, working with College Board, TEA, and the Higher Ed Coordinating Board to see what options are going to be available. So potentially, you will be able to take the TSI either going to a college campus later this spring, and they will have all kinds of safety measures and restrictions set in place in terms of how many scholars can be in the room and making sure that everything is clean and sanitized and ready in between sessions. Like, they'll be taking all of those precautions as well. But we're right now just waiting to get more information to see what options you might have in terms of taking the TSI on a college campus, or again with our community college campuses, if you're a campus that has traditionally done that in the past, or being able to take those remotely and working with like an online test proctor to offer that test from the technology you already have in your home. So we're working on that. We will share details as soon as we have it. But again, we want to make sure from all ends that if the TSI exam is something that you are needing to take this year, so that you can ensure that you'll be placed in those freshman level courses next year and will not require any remedial coursework. That is something that we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to do so. So we're working on that, and we'll share details as soon as we have it.
Aleta, thank you so much for being on the show today. This information is super helpful, and families and scholars are going to take this and apply it to their needs at home. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the information, and hope to have you back on the show soon.
Sounds great, Robert. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to today's episode. You will find details mentioned today in our show description. If you have any questions or would like information on what we discussed, please email us at rtcc@uplifteducation.org. Also, we understand navigating life, wellness, and education may be a challenge right now. We at Uplift want you to know you're not alone. We are on this journey together. And to help you stay informed, please visit uplifteducation.org/COVID-19, where we post all the updates and information you need to know. As a reminder, please do not forget to tune in next week for our new episode. Until then, be well and shine through.